Hi everybody, this is Matt Hopley with LRI Engineering. We're back again today talking a little bit more of our conversation series. In this episode, we're really focusing in on some discussion around planning and budgeting and how you can look to take actions when you're developing your budgets and when you're planning out your year. You can look to try and incorporate different pieces of fire and life safety aspects into that plan and really keep on top of your compliance. This is going to be sort of a two-part recording, and we're looking in the first part, we're really looking at sort of what I like to call quick wins, and it's really going about how you can try and capture little things early on or get ahead of them if you have a little bit of extra time left when you're doing your planning, or if you happen to have a little bit of budget when that time comes around when you need to, submit for your next one, right? Sometimes we have budgets and we're not able to roll them over into the next year. Sometimes they have to be use it or lose it kind of thing. And if that's the case for your organization, looking to find some of these quick wins can be a good way to use some of that budget in a productive, not wasteful manner. And what I mean about quick wins is really just talking about different ways that you can solve pretty small, common fire and life safety issues that are so common that they're probably something you can fix and something you can keep on top of. And even if you don't have budget, right, if there's no way to solve these problems now, you can start planning into incorporating them next time, or potentially look at devising some improved planning into your next budgets. And so the first way to start looking for quick wins, in my opinion, is to look at some of your annual inspections, right? What updated maintenance documents have you got available? What was already done? Have you been keeping up to date for your fire alarm annuals? Have you been keeping up to date with your sprinkler annuals? If those were done, your service provider should have helped you by preparing a report that outlines some recommendations or some of the things that they think ought to be done, as well as any sort of deficiencies where something didn't work as it's supposed to. And if you take the time to review those and look through them, what you can end up finding is what kinds of issues might exist in your facility. And it could be a case of where they caught some but not all. Maybe they flagged things that you disagree with. Maybe it's just going through and it kind of gets you primed for a little bit of an audit or a walkthrough on your own term. And really what you want to be doing when you're trying to do these quick wins is set yourself up for success by having a plan. Look at your annuals, maybe get somebody who's like a building operator or someone who's in the facility that you want to look at more closely. If that isn't you, try to get someone who's familiar with the space and just go through it to try to see if there's any issues, any problems that they can get ahead of. As an example of some of the types of things you can look at that you might find are deficiencies relating to exit signs or fire extinguishers, right? When you're walking through, do you see that the exit signs are in good condition? Did they stay lit? Did anybody break them? When's the last time you've actually kind of looked at an exit sign? And you can find cases where they're not working, they're not sufficiently lit, and that can be pretty quickly rectified, and it starts to improve that safety and that compliance. Another one, like I said, is fire extinguishers. And I've been kind of catching this a fair bit lately where fire extinguishers have not been maintained. And so whether it's somebody going through and checking the monthly inspection tags and not signing them off, we don't know if somebody's actually signing them off if they aren't signed. And so you got to look at whose responsibility is that. Are they being inspected? And there's lots of cases where they really aren't, because we're able to find extinguishers placed in inappropriate spots. They're obstructed, or in worse cases, we find cases where they've been marked by a technician as being due for their hydro. And so you have an expired fire extinguisher that's still on the wall. And so looking for those types of things, you can go through and find them, identify them, and it can be a pretty quick win to get those solved. And that way you've got an increased level of protection in your building. If a fire extinguisher isn't adequately maintained, you can wind up with a case where it doesn't work, and that's really your first line of defense in an area where you've got trained staff who know how to use a fire extinguisher. that might prevent it from getting into the incident from escalating. And so looking at those and taking care of those types of things are an easy quick win that you can look at. Something else that you can find when you're doing a walkthrough are doors and door hardware, right? So if you have a door that's in a fire separation, it has requirements around closing and latching, the fact that it actually needs to be closed and not wedged open, obstructions, you can't obstruct an exit door. You can also find with cases where the door opening forces don't work, and so the closers have gotten out of adjustment and it's too hard to open them, or slam shut. All of those are safety problems that are relatively easy to rectify, but which have a big impact on safety. There's lots of different incidents you can look at where the spread of smoke and fire within a building is affected by closures that are not closed. And so if you wind up with a problem in exit stair doors, maybe it's just with openings that have maybe it's a fire curtain or a fire shutter, all kinds of things that can wind up with small fixes, easy to fix, easy to look at, but have a big impact on your building in the event of a fire. And so if you've got those checked out, then make sure you're staying on top of it, right? So that can be something you can have somebody fix. You can fix it yourself. You can make a note of it, right? And even if you can't get it fixed while in your current budget cycle, you can plan for it for your next budget cycle, right, when you're looking through to incorporate it. Something else that you can look at is the maintenance tags, the maintenance of the tags on the doors. And so if you wind up with a case where a fire door doesn't have its tag anymore, that door technically doesn't comply. And it's pretty frequent for us to see where they've been painted over, the tags have been pulled off, somebody wrecked them, broke them. And as time goes by, that becomes harder and harder to fix without just putting in a new door. And the fire doors aren't the cheapest things around, and it's much easier to just look and make sure the tags have been maintained, haven't been painted over, and just staying on top of it. And so looking through those kinds of things are easy to do. Something else that can be easy but expensive if you let it get too long is on your sprinkler system. And so we've done a few relatively recent sprinkler projects where we've been looking into existing buildings and there's no hydraulic data plate. And so you go to try to determine what the system was originally configured for, what was it designed to do, and there's no data plate. There's no way to find out what that original design protected. And without being able to do that, you have to resort to try to find archive drawings. You have to find the as-built. You have to talk to your sprinkler designer. And in a case where maybe the data plate is missing, but it's a new building, maybe you've still got that designer around. Maybe you can find out who did that work and get it made up. Maybe they forgot. But getting on top of that early, finding that problem sooner rather than later before you're trying to do any sort of a sprinkler design project or sprinkler change can really help you out. And if you find yourself in a case where, maybe you're missing the hydraulic data plate and you can't find anybody, you can start that ball rolling. And so then you can figure out, if you are stuck in a place where you've got to, there's no other option but to do the work to re-engineer the system to come up with what those hydraulics are capable of doing, you can get that ball rolling. You can start making progress on that. And that can help you get ahead of your problems again before you're trying to do some sort of a renovation. Similarly, one other thing you can look at and take care of is on your fire safety plan. You can take advantage of time or budget or planning opportunities to evaluate when the last time your fire safety plan was updated, right? They're required to be reviewed on an annual basis. And, was that review done? Who did the review? Did they update it? Have there been any major changes to the building that you should account for? What types of things can you include in that fire safety plan to improve it? Looking at these kinds of things are the types of items that really are what I call a quick win. And if you take the opportunity to go for those quick wins, that can really help you maximize the benefit of your budget. And like I said, if you're out of budget, you can start to include these little things, which over time, if left too long, can really add up to be quite costly. And so really that's kind of the objective for this part. And so thank you for your time.